Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to today's regular council meeting for August 2020.
Is now joining.
Councilor Michelle, is that you just joining us?
It is me, Madam Mayor. Thank you. I am unable to join you on video, but I am on audio with you. Thank you.
Okay. Just we'll ask that you use your hand icon there. Teresa's going to help me keep an eye on it should you wish to speak at the meeting.
Thank you.
With that, I will call the August 11th, 2022 regular council meeting to order. If I could have a motion to approve the agenda with the following amendments. Attachment 2 of item 5.2 has been amended due to clerical errors and circulated to council in advance of the meeting. Item 7.4 has been added. That is a communications item regarding the Ontario sheep farmers, livestock guardian dogs. Added item 10.4.1, staff report OPS 22-043 Waterford Heritage Trail Asphalt Project. And item 15.1, the closed companion memo to staff report OPS 22-043. Are there any other additions from council members? Okay, seeing none, then if I could have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? That's carried. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we have no items going into early close today. Moving on to consent items, we have 2 items of consent. Does any member wish to pull any additional item for further discussion? So that'll be 5.1, the summary of bid awards for the period ending July 26, 2022, CS 22-137. And the second is 5.2, information memo regarding the council calendar revision. I don't see any hands. In that case, if I could have a motion to approve consent items 5.1 and 5.2 as presented. Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Huffman. All those in favor? That is carried. No deputations. Moving on to items of communications. There are 4 listed on the agenda today. Councillor Van Passen has requested to speak to communication item 7.4 regarding the Ontario sheep farmers, livestock for guardian dogs. Does anyone else wish to pull any other items of communication? In that case, Councillor Van Passen, I will turn the floor to yourself.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just, when I read this item, think it deserves a closer look by our staff, and I think the clerk has a motion prepared to send it off to staff to review it and see whether it warrants changes to our animal control bylaw.
Through the mayor, I can read it out if that's sufficient, or I can bring it up on the screen, whichever council prefers.
You can read it out. That's sufficient, I think.
Okay, it's very simple. That the livestock guardian dogs matter be referred back to staff for review and consideration of changes to the animal care and control bylaw.
Is there a seconder for Councillor Van Passen's motion? Councillor Taylor, thank you. Any further discussion on the matter? All those in favor? That's carried. If I could have a motion then to approve the balance of the communication items, that's 7.1 to 7.3 is information. 7.1 is the information memo, special events 2022-30 at Carnival temporary road closure. 7.2 information memo, special event 22-34 Langton Fall Fair temporary road closure. And 7.3 information memo, special event 2022-26 Port Rowan Bayfest temporary road closure. Mover and seconder, Councillor Vanden Rishi, seconded by Councillor Huffman. All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to the approval of minutes, we have the following regular minutes before us today. 8.1 council minutes, July 19th, 2022, open and closed. Are there any errors or omissions? Don't see a hand up for Councillor Michelle, so if I could have a motion to approve the sets of minutes as presented. Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favor? That's carried. Moving on to the reports of advisory committee minutes. We have 4 reports of committees under this section of the agenda. 9.1 Recreation Advisory Committee minutes from July 21st, 2022. Does any member wish to pull any of the items? Councillor Van Passen, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item number 5.1. I wonder whether could get council endorsement of that motion from the committee.
So item 5.1 was moved by moved by Councillor Vanden Riche, seconded by Board Member DeMeester, that the presentation from Todd Shoemaker, is this the one you're referring to? Regarding live streaming in recreation facilities be received for information, and that the Recreational Advisory Committee recommends to Council the implementation of live streaming in all 5 Norfolk County arenas. And further, that a staff report be brought to Council from the Recreation and Operations Department regarding live streaming in recreation facilities. If I could have a mover and a seconder then, Councillor Vanden Riche, seconded by, go ahead. Okay, I'll just get a seconder here and then I'll turn the floor over to yourself, Councillor Hoffman. Seconded by Councillor Rabbits. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Through you, could I get a little bit more information as to what exactly the live streaming in the recreational facilities involves?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, what it was a discussion of having live stream in the arenas for those who chose to. This is a little bit ahead of its time yet. There's some discussions to be happening with the user groups and things like that. There's going to be the ability not to show faces for children, and there's a lot of issues, and that was all coming up for discussion. But the initial idea of it we thought was a good one. It's good for the events that could happen, but it's going to be cameraed or dealt with at a distance. So a lot of faces can't be made out, and with hockey with their equipment. So there's a little further discussion to happen, but we thought we'd move it forward because there seemed to have been a lot of interest into it.
Okay, so this would involve if there's a hockey game on, it's live stream. So if a grandparent wasn't able to make it in person, they could live stream their grandchild's hockey game or.
And that was part of what was the benefit of it was for the fact for those grandparents maybe that were shut-ins or whatever could have the advantage of seeing their grandchildren or even a parent see their child play in an activity or whatever. And we thought it was a great idea. And we are going to make sure that there are safeguards put into place for those who choose not to have their child being seen. You know what? There's reasons for many of that. So anyway, we thought this is the initial stages of it. We were furthering it, and we wanted to make sure that we could go forward and get a staff report, and that's why we brought it here.
Thank you very much. I support this.
Thank you.
As the Recreational Facilities Committee, have they come up with any sort of estimates on costs or anything that this looks like for the county, given that it's after hours?
Good, Madam Mayor. I think part of this is what we are trying to do with that change is that the committee can't spend money and staff time equals money. So we would need council's direction to allow the staff to go and look into those things and bring that report back. And the companion of this one would be resolution number 5 to use the Engage Norfolk platform. And I think the clerk has a motion drafted that would sort of suit the needs and the direction that we want to go on this. And again, it's to allow staff to go do that homework and use their time to do it and have the authority of council to do that.
I just said that a bit tongue in cheek. I mean, one could do a back of an envelope calculation on this one before. There's a lot of ideas that are good that might be a bit challenging in a 9% tax year. But Teresa, did you have a different motion then? So I understand you were going to pull a second one and you want to add this. You don't want this motion brought forward then. You want.
Both of them will, I was going to pull the other one secondly or after this one was complete, but we'll let the clerk fill us in on what she's drafted.
So through the mayor, I do have 2 motions up on the screen. Council could choose to do them as 2 separate motions, or I could combine them together. So we as staff, when we were looking at this yesterday, our thought is that you would just direct staff to bring a report back, that you wouldn't actually authorize the live streaming yet because you'd want to see the information first. So it's just the simple motion that staff, a staff report be brought back regarding the live streaming in recreation facilities. And then the second part of the motion, or a second subsequent motion, would be that the Recreation Advisory Committee had offered some suggestions for the Engage Norfolk survey with respect to recreation facilities. And that's outlined in those minutes. And so if council is in agreement to endorse those questions to be asked through the Engage Norfolk process, then staff would require council's approval to move forward with that survey.
So Councillor Van Passen, if it's okay with you, then are you okay to amend the motion that you moved as presented by Teresa?
Yeah, we can move the one presented by the clerk. And,
Perfect. Well, I already had a mover and a seconder, so it'll have to be treated as an amendment to that. And Councillor Taylor, you're okay with that, seconding it? Any further discussion on the matter? All those in favor? And that's carried.
I just through the mayor just to confirm Councillor Rabbits actually seconded that motion.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Rabbits, were you okay with that? Perfect, thank you. I just thought it was you. Okay, is there anything else from that committee meeting? Councillor Van Passen or Councillor Van den Riche? No, okay. Does any councillor wish to pull any items from the Telecommunications Advisory Committee from July 28th, 2022? Does any councillor wish to pull any items from the Accessibility Advisory Board minutes from July 27th, 2022? And finally, does any councillor wish to pull any items from the Accessibility Advisory Board from August 3rd, 2022? In that case, if I could have a mover and a seconder to receive the balance of the following reports of committee for information, that's the Recreation Advisory Committee minutes, July 21st, 2022, the Telecommunications Advisory Committee, July 28th, 2022, the Accessibility Advisory Board minutes from July 27th, 2022, and the Special Accessibility Advisory Board from August 3rd, 2022. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Huffman, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? That's carried. Moving on to staff reports, we have 11.4.1. That is the Waterford Heritage Trail Asphalt Project Follow-Up Report, OPS 22-043. So council received 3 deputations related to the Waterford Heritage Trail Asphalt Project at the July 12th Council and Committee meeting, and the matter was referred to the Accessibility Advisory Committee for consultation. The AAC heard 9 deputations at that meeting related to the matter. As per section 7.7 of the county's procedural bylaw, deputations shall only present significantly new information, and repetitive deputations by any persons, group, or organizations will not be considered by council. The clerk's office did not receive any written requests for new deputations or new information to be put forward on this matter at this meeting. Bill and I believe Todd, I don't know if he's going to be joining us or not, will be presenting the report. But I want to be clear to council before we move forward. So first of all, there's item 15.1. That's a closed companion memo that's found later in the agenda in relation to this staff report. I'm going to skip to that first. Is there any councillor that needs to discuss the closed memo? In that case, if I could have a mover and a seconder to receive the closed session companion memo to staff report OPS 22-043 for information. Councillor Rabbit, seconded by Councillor Huffman. All those in favor? That's carried. Now turning back to the item that is before us today, the clerk and I had a discussion earlier. So just as a reminder, the motion was actually quite clear at the last meeting. We were putting the ultimate decision into the hands of the accessibility clinic and clinic committee. And if there were any concerns, then it would come back to council. So the motion has already been reconsidered once during this term of council. There is no ability to reconsider it a second time. So today the debate is not paving or not paving. That has already been decided per the motion at the previous meeting. Today's debate is whether to go and for council to waive the procurement policy for a single source. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Bill, for discussion.
Madam Chair. Yes, Mr. Shoemaker is not here today, but in attendance is Sam McFarland, who also a co-author of the report. So I'll be very brief. OPS 22043 Waterford Heritage Trail Asphalt Project follow-up is being presented today. It's a carryover from the July 12th CIC meeting. And there are a few bits of information that staff wanted to bring forward to council on actions that staff had taken since July 12th. And I'll just go through them very quickly. One of the resolutions was that the staff reach out to the funders of the grant, as well as the Trail Association, to see if a limestone aggregate could be replaced for the paving. Obviously, the answer on that was no. It would be a scope change from what they applied for, so it will be paved. There was also a legal note for staff to touch base with legal on AODA aspects, and that is included, as Mayor Chapa talked later, as a closed companion report. Since then, the Norfolk County Accessibility Advisory Committee has met and has approved the projects. I'll go through these very quickly. We staff in the Waterford Trail Association have also met with biologists, herpetologists, I believe is the proper terminology, somebody that works with turtles, and there was a report copy there as well for council's information. Also, staff have a draft MOU, which is still in draft position, depending on whether the trail paving goes ahead, where we'll work with the advisory group on design, tendering, and project overseeing installation of the pavement. That's well on the way. Staff will also work with the trail group for proper procurement, as this is a public trail that is on public land. We have to make sure that we don't break any rules with our purchasing. And also, staff and the Waterford Trail group discussed the aspect of the group raising annual money for the trail replacement, and the group couldn't or wouldn't commit to raising an annual amount. However, said that they will commit to fundraising down the road when repairs are needed or replacements. And lastly, I think the report needs to cover, due to the tight timelines, if council passes the paving today with the grant funding, it has to be used by March 2023, I believe. You can't pave much past December. So we're asking for 2 exemptions from the purchasing policy. One is to go with a modified quotation, which basically cuts our timeline in half. Should be able to have this quote to the market in early September, close in mid-September, if council is willing to approve that. And also, we need to have it approved that the CAO can award the quote, so we don't have to come back here because it is over a threshold, and have council approve the expenditure. As that, I mentioned ops staff as well as community service or corporate staff were involved in the writing. I'll give credits to Shelley Darlington, who's not here today, and Sam McFarland, who were co-authors. And I'll turn over to County Council for any questions they'll have. I'm on side for any of the operation type questions, and the purchasing and the AODA and accessibility issues probably are better answered by Sam, but the two of us will get answers. So with that, I'll turn over to County Council.
Any questions from council? Councilor Hoffman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Through you to Mr. Cridlin. If we could just elaborate a little bit on the report, the final results of the Engage Norfolk, what were the results of that from the community?
Madam Chair, through the councillor, Sam, if I can rely on you for thank you.
So through the mayor to Councillor Huffman, the final results, as shown in the report, we received 915 responses. So 403 of those, or 48%, supported paved asphalt. 353 responses, or 42%, supported the approach of crushed limestone, and then 79 responses, or 10%, indicated that they had no preference.
Thank you, Sam. And also, just for transparency purposes, I know this has been a long process for everyone, and I know that there's been a lot of misinformation. I just wanted to clarify a few things. In terms of the I brought up at the accessibility committee meeting, I had a question to staff in regards to any laws that were broken. And I just wanted to reiterate that there were no laws that were broken during the process of this issue.
Through the mayor to Councillor Huffman, I would say based on my professional opinion, I feel comfortable saying that we didn't break any laws as it relates to the AODA.
Thank you, Sam. And one more question, just to clarify for the public. This funding has been, was a grant that was procured through the Waterford Trail Association with the assistance of Venture Norfolk for the full amount to cover the paving, and no other surface can be used, as that would not fall under the scope. Is that correct? Scope of the grant.
Madam Chair, to the councillor, yes, that is correct for the grant itself. I think there are a few lines of funding that the group have. The grant was the big piece, but there's also some public donations and business donations within the town of Waterford or Norfolk at large. But for the grant money, paving is what went in for the scope, and that's what was approved, and paving has to be put down for the group to secure the grant money.
And one final question, with the procurement, with is it an RFP that will go out? Is that the right terminology?
So if I can, that's what I wanted to make the clarification today. So the only thing we're debating is to allow staff to use a sole source procurement. So we're waiving the purchasing policy. So there is no RFP.
So the sole source procurement will be monitored by staff and will be administered by the CAO. That's correct. Administered, but approved by.
Through the chair, yes, Norfolk County will be following all Norfolk County procurement rules and policies in this. And instead of coming back, I believe Shirley's not here, but because of the value, and it's to come to council to approve, if possible, delegate that to the CAO, and we don't have to come back to have you approve that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any further questions from council? Okay, in that case, the recommendation from staff is outlined on page 6 of the addendum. It's that staff report OPS 22-043 Waterford Heritage Trail Asphalt Project follow-up be received as information, and that staff be directed to enter into an MOU agreement with the Waterford Heritage Trail Association to outline responsibilities for design specifications, tendering, project oversight, and risk mitigation during the construction paving project, plus reporting requirements prior to the modified procurement process being initiated. And that council permits an exemption as outlined in Norfolk County Purchasing Policy ECS-02, Section 13, to allow for a modified procurement by way of a request for quotation for the Waterford Heritage Trail Asphalt Project. And further, that council permits delegated authority to the chief administrative officer to award the purchase of the Waterford Heritage Trail Asphalt Project, provided that the conditions outlined in section 3.2.2 of the purchasing policy have been satisfied. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Rabbit, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to 10.6.1, the procedure bylaw amendment and council orientation workshop, CAO 22-110. And Al, I guess that's yourself going to be presenting, or Teresa? Teresa is the author. However, she indicated in my notes that you were presenting. That's not fun.
Through the mayor, I tried to delegate to Al, but he just redelegated it back. So thank you. So the report before council today is with respect to 2022 term of council orientation and a request to amend the existing procedure bylaws. So the council staff relationship is one of the most critical elements for a municipality. A council orientation program provides an opportunity to establish a positive tone for the next term of council and assists in creating an understanding of roles and responsibilities for both staff and elected officials. As leaders within the municipality, elected officials show their commitment to providing strong governance when they invest in a well thought out and informed orientation program to create a foundation for council and staff to achieve strategic goals and community objectives. Key benefits of a council orientation include building teamwork, respect, and knowledge, establishing a positive working relationship between council and staff, providing an opportunity for members of council to receive updates on key initiatives and municipal priorities, provision of educational information related to policies, procedures, and legislation, identifying challenges and issues affecting the municipality, and establishing mentoring relations between members of council. Norfolk County's senior leadership team has been planning a comprehensive and engaging council orientation program for the next term of council that will include interactive events, participatory workshops, road tours, and presentations. County staff have identified key areas that need to be highlighted early in the new term, and these will be the primary focus of the workshops being held in November. Recognizing that information sharing and relationship building is a constant flow, staff will be proposing regular monthly workshops in 2023. Although council orientation is not a mandatory requirement for elected officials, staff would strongly encourage the 2022 to 2026 council-elect to join together in the learning environment and strive to attend as many of the workshops as possible. As the new procedure bylaw is still under review, staff are recommending an amendment to the current procedure bylaw to allow for a workshop component to provide flexibility in offering the council orientation sessions in a more informal manner. The proposed workshops will allow for the educational sessions to occur regardless of whether quorum of council is achieved, and will also restrict any decision-making activity during the workshops. Workshops material will be made available on the county's website, and video options of the staff presentations may be available for members who are unable to attend a workshop date. The proposed workshop dates will consist of some half-day and some full-day sessions. The report before you today is requesting council's approval again for a bylaw amendment to allow for workshops, as well as to approve the scheduled 2022 council orientation program on the dates outlined in the report. Subject to approval, council will pass the amending bylaw today, and staff will finalize the orientation program and share the workshop schedule with all municipal election candidates so they are aware of the upcoming commitments. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions of council.
Questions from council? Councilor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Through you to the clerk. Will any of these workshops be offered virtually, or will they all be in person?
Through the Mayor to Councillor Huffman, at this time, we are planning to move the workshops around the county. So the intent would be in person, but if we had the ability to offer some virtual attendance, we could definitely look into that.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions? Councilor Van Den Rishi, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Not necessarily a question as much as a comment. I think it's an excellent idea. I think all the organizations I've been through, orientation is excellent, and you need that forethought to be able to continue on with what you're doing. So I think it's an excellent idea, and I will be participating. Thank you.
From my perspective, I'm just curious, is the intention that all of senior leadership will be at each of the orientation sessions?
So through the mayor to the mayor, at this time, I believe that is the intention, that senior leadership would attend, I would say, the majority of the orientation that we have planned out at this time.
So how does the cost estimate work out to $5,000 for that then?
Through the mayor, we did not put the cost of staff time in that perspective, in the fact that staff will be working their regular workday. It's just on that regular workday they will be providing the educational pieces on their department services and programs to councillors during that time. The costs outlined in the report are actual hard cost of any kind of for the road tour, a bus, for any materials that we have to produce outside of county resources.
I understand. I just, you know, I agree, we needed some work from the original orientation session that was provided to this council that wasn't really sufficient, but we've gone from, you know, a small orientation now to 6 days of staff time with all of senior leadership. I just don't know that from my own perspective that I agree with 6 days of all of senior leadership participating in orientation sessions when we have as much stuff going on as we do. So, but perhaps that's some refinement that could come down the road. Is there a mover and a seconder for staff's recommendation? Counselor Huffman, seconded by Counselor Rabbits. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? And that's carried. Moving on, we're over to bylaws now. That's item 12. Do we have any council member wishing to speak to any of the bylaws before us for approval? If I could have a mover to approve the following bylaws: bylaw 22-71, bylaw 22-93, and bylaw 22-94. Counselor Taylor, seconded by Counselor Rabbits. All those in favor? That is carried. There's no motions today. Does any member wish to introduce a notice of motion? Are there any general announcements? Okay, seeing none then, we've already discussed the closed session item, and that was just the memo to the accompanying staff report. And with that, if I could have a motion to approve bylaw 2022-95, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Norfolk County at this regular council meeting held on the 11th day of August 2022, and that the bylaw be approved and signed by the mayor and clerk and affixed with the corporate seal. Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Taylor. All those in favor? Thank you. And finally, a motion to adjourn from Councilor Huffman at 1:31 p.m., seconded by Councilor Rabbits. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thanks very much, everyone. Thanks to staff for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Bye now.